Yeah, hello,
Okay.
Judy. Hello.
Hello.
Знала ли она вообще о том, что, например, допустим, в той же России очень популярна ее книга среди комиков? Ну, я так понял, ты сказал, что почти все комики начинают с этого. В курсе ли она была? И, может быть, в каких-то других странах она еще тоже знает, что ее книга востребована.
So yes, Judy, did you know about it, about popularity of your book in Russia?
No, because we can't get my publishers to, the Russian publishers, to give me a royalty statement or money or anything. It could change, but I've been trying. A year ago, they were supposed to let me know. They haven't. I've been emailing. My agent has. So, no, I guess they're keeping all the money. And as well as you know, no.
That's terrible.
I'm glad to hear.
Yes, but that's not fun.
It's kind of, it's very hard as a stand-up comic or as a writer to get your due. But I have, anyway, do you want to translate? I'll go short.
No, David, he can understand you mostly, but the problem is with his communication.
So I wrote a two new books, and one is let me just can I share a screen? Yeah, I wrote two new books. This is the Comedy Bible.
Yes.
And the Comedy Bible workbook, which I would love to be translated into Russian. I also created a Russian website for people to register because I thought it would be good to have interaction, but I'm having trouble with that. But I'm very happy that it's good. I'll tell you a little story. Is that okay?
Yeah,
sure.
About 5 years ago, I was invited to go to Moscow. And if you need, tell me if you need, just hold up your hand if you need me to stop to translate. Okay.
Okay.
And it was for business people who wanted to learn how to be funny. And I was going to give classes for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they would perform in a restaurant that had a little stage in Moscow. So I get up in front of everybody, 20 people, and I'm doing it, and they hate me. I said to the owner, why do they hate me? And he said, because you're smiling. And going, I'm smiling? He says, yes. They think you're phony. So comedy is from anger. You know, what makes you angry? So I got up in front of them after the break and I said, I want to read you from Facebook what my friends say about Russians. And I started to read these horrible things about my grandmother's Russian and she hasn't smiled in 20 years. You people are angry. You know, and I'm sick of this. Anyway, I just got really angry and they started to laugh and then they loved me. And then I was worried if American humor would translate to Russian. And I had a wonderful interpreter. He interpreted everything. And when they did the showcase, I could hear a laugh every 10 seconds because that's what you need. And I feel the Russian culture is perfect for comedy because of the soul of passion and anger and expression. And
I guess you're true, yes.
So anyway, so I'm so happy that people are learning how to take things that make them angry and turn them into make it a way that people can laugh, because when we laugh at something, it's good for our own self, our heart, and it's so good for the audience to laugh about something that is difficult, whether it's you can't stand the person you married, you can't stand your parents, you hate your teachers.
Давай...
People saying stupid things to you.
Давай спросим тогда, что первая Библия комедии была в 2001, да, вроде году написана. Как она считает, актуальна ли она сейчас? И, возможно, в этой новой Библии, которую она написала, Библии комедии, там что-то обновилось. Что именно обновилось, может, она расскажет.
So, David asks, your first book was published in 2001, right?
The Comedy Bible came out in 2001.
Yes. How do you think? Is it mostly still relevant, or maybe a lot of things changed in modern stand-up scene? Maybe your new books had some updates on that, and in which part, if you can tell us?
Yes, comedy has changed.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote the new Comedy Bible and the Comedy Bible workbook that goes along with it. Because my first book, Bill Cosby is a hero. Louis C.K. is somebody we should all emulate.
Ellen DeGeneres.
I mean, it's very much changed. In terms of comedy, is the way we need our laughs is quicker. We have so many distractions that you can't tell a story and wait to the very end to get the laugh, that you have to get laughs through every 10 seconds. So that means shorter setup and then funny. So a setup and then laugh. That's one. Number two is that there's so many things that have become what we call in America politically incorrect to joke about. Certainly making fun of race, somebody else's race, or someone else being gay or any of that is, and certainly in Russia, we've seen people thrown in jail for political jokes. They've become dangerous. There is one thing you can joke about, and that's yourself. And my new book shows people how to dig inside of themselves and ask you 7 very important questions about yourself to find out what you can joke about that will be very truthful. And it's also something you have passion about. We don't just joke to be funny anymore. We joke to communicate.
I have a follow-up question about that, because you said that at this moment we can joke only about ourselves, but if we go back in history, in 60s in USA, guys like Lenny Bruce or Jonathan Winters and Mart Saul, famous 3, they were joking against strong government, which was arresting them a lot, and they did well in terms of comedy, not necessarily in terms of their life.
Well,
I mean, it's still
but
possible.
That is their life. Lenny Bruce was arrested and he was harassed by the police, by the government, by the FBI. That is joking about your life, you know. And so I'm not to say that you can't joke about politics. I'm just saying that these are, it's best to come from who you are so the audience can get to know who you are, to understand. So like if you would go like a joke like my mother and Putin have so much in common. What a wonderful way to joke, a way to get by joking, doing a political joke by revealing something personal about yourself. Because of social media, we all want to get to know each other on a personal level, and comedy then becomes, our setups have to be that way as well. So you just can't just go out and go, I'm going to bash this person or I'm going to bash that person. You can, and I highly suggest you do, but you want to do it first to let the audience know, who are you? So our comics here, such who bash our government, like Chris Rock, he talks about it from his experience of being an African American, being a Black man, and the prejudice he's experienced growing up. So when he jokes about police violence, you understand why he's so angry on a personal level. As a comic, that's where it all starts. It starts with revealing of ourselves personally. That's the best joke ever. You got to get your life is a joke. You know, when I say use these words, start off to write a joke. What's hard, weird, scary, or stupid about your life? And those 4 words, emotion, drive your act.
While we're here, and then I let David to ask these questions again. I wanted to ask you, because these 5 things you said about strange, weird, and so on. Have you heard about comedian Ron Funches?
No, tell me about him.
He's an American comedian, and he's an interesting case because he decided to joke only about things that bring joy in his life. Joke only about good things. Like he took this notion about that comedy comes from pain and anger, and he refused it. And he's doing pretty much okay, although you never heard about him. That's a sign.
I never heard of him. And here's the thing. If you say, can we use language here on this?
Sure, yes.
Fuck racism. All right.
Yeah.
So if I say fuck racism, right? And fuck Trump and his white supremacists. Okay. Is that joyful? Yes. If I go, I love racism, is that bad? What is good and what is bad? I say that I don't care about what anybody loves. Hello, how are you? I'm fine. You know, and that's why in Russia, when I came and taught and I smiled, they went, you're bullshit. And they were right, because we Americans are used to trying to be likable. We want people to like us, right? We're having a problem with that now. But Americans are smiling and hello. And the Russians were saying to me, you're full of shit, Judy. Why are you smiling at us? You don't even know us. And that was the lesson I learned from my Russian comedy students. They were right. I'm trying to teach people to be honest and joke about things that are honest. Well, I'm being phony. And they called me on it. Yes. And that's why I think it's so important for Russians to learn comedy, because you're already friggin' funny. I mean, I don't know, have you heard Kira Sultanovich? Kira,
No.
You should have her on your show, David. She's one of my teachers. She's running a class here. She speaks Russian. Her material about her Russian parents and what they used to serve for dinner with an eyeball coming up from the soup. Oh my God, she's hilarious. So, because she's so passionate. And I also think Russians have something Americans don't have, is irony. You know, you have such a longer history than we have, and Americans, the humor isn't as deep as this, like the British have that sense of irony and history. It's amazing. Like, I'm starting to teach comedy. My book just came out in China. They have a problem there because, well, first of all, there's limits on what they can joke on politically, like you guys have. But there is also, they don't think like, oh, I can't get laid. They wouldn't say that. Like it's, oh, I'm so fat. Oh, my mother's a bitch. That's comedy. You have to be willing to speak the truth, right? And define yourself. Like, are you from a minority? Are you gay? When we're a comic, we have to be open about who we are. And that's how we change the world, by getting people to laugh at the very things that, they're scared of. That's what changed. We now have gay marriage in the United States because of Ellen, shows like Will and Grace, where people got everybody to laugh while they were being honest about who they were. So that's why, you know what? All right, I didn't get paid for my book. Okay. But I think we're doing a good service there in Russia, right?
That's great attitude from your point.
Don't you think? Can you joke about
agree.
Putin?
Yeah, it depends where. Like you can do that on national television, but you definitely can do it in clubs. There's no problem. There's no busts on the clubs, especially in Moscow. Moscow is pretty. Do you know comedian Andrew Schultz?
I've heard that name.
Yeah, he's boom. He's great right now, doing great on YouTube. He came, did a show in Moscow. Jim Gaffigan visited us at a great concert.
And is he translated?
No, Gaffigan wasn't translated.
Huh. I didn't.
Andrew Schultz had a translator.
That's weird. Because you do it and then the laugh, and you wait.
Я все не знаю, как ворваться в этот диалог ваш. Я к тому, что спроси у нее для начала, нам надо в 30 минут закончить, просто скажи технический вопрос. Потому что у меня тут вопросы накиданы, но у вас там так все льется, что я не знаю, как.
Да, все сейчас.
Да, ты спроси.
Judy, do we have only 30 minutes?
No, go ahead. I'm free.
Oh, that's great.
Да, давай тогда.
David had a lot of questions, and I was interrupting him all along. Okay.
Are you recording this? Are you recording?
Yes. I want to upload it to my YouTube channels.
But you're recording it, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. I think it will be interesting for Russian stand-up comedians. Okay, I'll ask my questions on Russian, and Ashot will translate. Просто, я не знаю, ты, может, скажешь, что это может в формате блица как-нибудь, чтобы, я так понимаю, она любит уйти в дебри. В общем, спроси у нее, она сейчас сама с комедией занимается, вот сейчас, да, или когда она занимается, ты понял.
So I saw your video performance on your YouTube channel from archives. It was uploaded lately. So David wants to ask if you're doing comedy now.
Well, I'm not doing stand-up. I did it for 20 years. I made a living. I bought my home from doing stand-up comedy.
Mm.
As I got older, I found that when I come to the club, if I come to a club, my age is going to be very different and my experience is going to be very different. I now took my act and I wrote a book called The Message of You, and I became a corporate speaker where I have a message. And so I became very, very popular in the US and abroad. I performed all over the world as talking about how humor can relieve stress. So I took the jokes, a lot of the joke in my stand-up, and I added a message and turned it corporate speech where I got probably 20 times what I got as a stand-up comic. So I started to make $15,000 US for every corporate gig I did. And then I decided that I wanted to write a one-person show about my life. So stand-up then became something that I'm not doing right now because of COVID. But we're having classes, and I just found that the stand-up scene has become very difficult because people are so divided here. So let's just say you do a anti-Trump joke and you're in Texas. Well, half the audience will leave, or throw things. It's just things. I didn't want that anymore. It's not for me. Or if I talked about my own personal issues about being older, who cares? They're like a younger crowd. So the gap between me and my audience got big. So I had to I had to reinvent my life and my career, which I'm really happy I did.
А насколько она интегрирована сейчас вообще в стендап в Штатах, в LA, в плане того, что можно ли ей позадавать вопросы о том, как там сейчас все устроено, в курсе ли она?
Are you aware about the situation in comedy scene in America from within? Can we ask some questions about how it's working on the internal level?
Yeah. A lot of comics are such as Jerry Seinfeld have stopped working. Well, we've all stopped working because of COVID. There are currently right now, they have drive-in comedy shows where you sit in your car outside in some parking lot. There's some states that have comedy gigs. Comics are getting sick from them. People are getting ill. So it's right now with at this point in the interview, Trump, a lot of the people in the White House have gotten it. So we're at a transition point. But before COVID happened, this atmosphere of, we have a word in America, and it's called being woke. I don't know if you know what it means, being woke.
Yeah, I know.
That means I'm aware of gay rights. I'm aware that Black Lives Matter. I'm aware of things. And so censorship has hit heavily, because you could do, let's say, a joke that's actually shown is really about that you're pro Black Lives Matter, but because you're white and you're saying it, it becomes offensive. Mm. So there's this carefulness right now of what we can say and not say. That's why I suggest, again, that people go, what do you hate about yourself? What do you hate about your own life? So it's a little, so you can let people get to know you.
Yes, but I think David meant structurally, like, do you know about the construction of stand-up scene in America right now? Like, we have open mics and then shows and big gigs, and like how the career of an average stand-up comedian is going from the beginning to the end.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What's going on now is that used to be that when I came up, that you would get on a TV show, and from that TV show would launch your career, and then you would get maybe something called a sitcom, and it was very structured. There were like very few gatekeepers, meaning that if those gatekeepers liked you, there you go. Now it's very different. Now there aren't any gatekeepers. So you can do your thing, post it on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and start getting followers. That's the first step, to get followers. Then if you get followers, you can get an agent, because the first thing an agent now will see how many followers you have. Then from that, and you can get that from open mics, which is where people start for many years to develop their material. And then from that, they go on to posting that on social. And then sometimes they hit something that just hits big, and that gets them an audience. To get that audience, let me just say one thing that's really important. It goes back to everything I've said. It's called niche marketing. You can't get everyone to like you. So you need to find what is your niche. Like, for instance, my niche is older women. We're not on television. We're discriminated against. But that's why I can have 1,500 people come out to see me, because I'm going to talk about things that affect the life of an older woman. So I can't go to a comedy club, because when I go to a comedy club, people aren't going to connect. So what you do is develop who you are and develop who your audience is. That brings you followers. And from that, you can then pack out theaters. So that's what people like Mike Birbiglia is doing, Jim Gaffigan. People know who he is. They know his brand of comedy. He doesn't work clubs. He works large, at least 1,500 seat theaters. Kathy Griffin, Chris Rock, Eddie Izzard, who played the Hollywood Bowl, packed it out, because, and what's so beautiful is, you have the people there who are coming to see you, want to see you, rather than you trying to please an audience. So you can be your outrageous self, as crazy as you want, because you know your audience. If you don't know your audience, you're in trouble.
Технически еще один вопрос. Есть ли там в Штатах сейчас open-майки, где много зрителей, больше 50 зрителей? Есть ли возможность для начинающего комика выступить на такую аудиторию?
Yeah, this is about an interesting difference between USA and Russia about structure of open mics. Do you have any open mics in USA that have a real crowd, like 50 people, for example?
Well, again, I'm talking pre-pandemic.
No, before.
Before.
What we do here is we have usually a comic will become a producer, and that way they can have stage time each week because they're producing the show. So they'll arrange with any a restaurant or a club or something. Then they have the comics go on in terms of how many people they can bring. So they're called bringer shows. So so let's say I bring 15 people, I could do 15 minutes. I bring 3 people, I do 3 minutes. And that way they have an audience.
То есть получается, что если ты начинающий комик без аудитории, у тебя вряд ли получится выступить на большую аудиторию.
So if you're a struggling beginner comedian, you have no chance of performing in front of large crowd.
Usually you perform in front of other comics.
Ну да,
and when you say something funny, they're usually writing it down and stealing it from you, right? Yeah, you know, they don't even laugh. They're like, yeah, that's funny.
Да, это к тому, что ты можешь, если сказать, что у нас комик может там на 100-150 человек выступить впервые в жизни, там, ну ты понял, просто чтобы она в курсе была.
Yeah, because we kind of aware about this problem with not finding any crowd in USA. Because here in Russia, it developed that way that if you're performing first time in your life, you still have a chance to find a place where there are 100 people, for example. And you can perform there free, for free.
People need comedy now. That's how it used to be in the U.S. But it's my fault because of my books. Everybody now can do stand-up comedy.
So you're to blame. Okay.
That's my fault, and I'm sorry. But you know what people are doing? Again, this notion of niche. Let's just say you're Jewish, okay? And you develop material about being Jewish, right? Well, now you have more of a chance to get paid because you could call up synagogues, Jewish organizations, where they do have several hundred people in the audience, and you could do a show or get maybe other Jewish comics together and put together a show. So the same thing if you're gay or Catholic or you know your religion or you're Ukrainian, I would imagine, or whatever it is that you are. Is a way to find an audience in America.
В курсе ли она, какой сейчас приблизительно средний возраст комика в Штатах?
At this moment, pre-pandemic, what was the average age of a comedian?
Это к тому, что это к тому, что у нас там средний возраст 25, но я в плане вот в этом сравнении.
In Russia, the average age of comedian is 25-27 at this moment.
Same. It's same.
That's the same.
It's well, here's the thing. To be a comedian, you have to be able to travel. When I was in my 20s and 30s, 1 year I was on the road 46 weeks out of the year.
Wow.
And then, of course, when you get older and you have children and you have a family, you gotta find something else to do because that becomes very difficult.
Насколько, Ашот, если я не прав, ты меня поправь, в 90-х годах был кризис в стендапе, да, какой-то?
Да.
В курсе ли она, почему так было? Опять же, просто если накладывать аналогию на Россию, чтобы, возможно ли это у нас, что это был за кризис, как он, почему он возник и как он прошел?
Yes, this is a great question about, after the comedy boom of 70s and 80s in USA, there was crisis in comedy world. Am I right?
Yeah, there were so many comics and most of them were bad.
So yeah, we wanted to ask you about the why it happened and just to know if we're going towards it.
I knew it was bad when I went to my gynecologist. You know what a gynecologist is? And he said, okay, here are your results. And then he hands me a flyer. Come see my show. No. Everybody, my dentist, everybody's doing stand-up.
That was the reason?
The reason is that it takes a long time to get good at comedy.
Yeah.
Just takes a long time. And develop your persona, who you are, what you talk about, and getting your jokes tight. And learn so many skills. Learning how to connect to an audience, learning how to deal with hecklers, all of that. It's just a lot of skills. And so people just learned some jokes, got up there. It was just bad. It was really bad. So now you could watch YouTube videos and go, okay, this guy's good. I'm just going to see this guy because he's really good. People look for comics, just like Facebook is doing, where they just give you the things you want to see. Comedy's the same way. We want to see the comics that think the way we think, that talk about the same things. So yeah, it got bad. I never told people I was a stand-up. I was in a cab, and the cab said, "So what do you do?" And I went, "I'm a stand-up comic." And they all say the same thing. A lot of people think I'm funny. Listen to this one. And then he does a show in the taxi. It's like, no. So I stopped. I just say I'm a writer.
That happens a lot. Yeah.
Еще такой вопрос. Как много стендапа в Штатах на национальном телевидении, или он сейчас перетек на стриминговые платформы и YouTube? Типа, это опять же сравнивая с нашим стендапом на ТНТ, который единственная передача является. Как у них на национальном телевидении, сколько стендапа?
So, do you have a lot of stand-up on national television at this moment? Or it just went to internet, YouTube and Netflix and so on?
It stopped happening in the 2000s, comedy on television. And then Netflix now gives deals to comics. Netflix has, comedy specials. But they found that not on network TV, but nobody watches network TV anymore. So it doesn't matter. People want their comedy short, fast, and their laughs quick. So you could take, let's just say you do a 20-minute set at a club, and then you could take your best 1 minute and put it on the internet. And if it goes viral, you could have a crowd at your next club, at next time you play. So that's what's going on. Then what comics are now, here's the thing. If you learn how to do stand-up from reading my book, you now have a powerful skill. You can make people laugh quickly, right? You know how to spin a joke. I could be talking about, COVID and people dying, the most serious topic, get a joke in there. You can't. There's nothing you cannot joke about. Nothing. You can get a joke in there really quick. Okay, now you've learned a really good skill. Let's just say you're a speaker. You know who I write jokes for now? CEOs giving their speeches because they're so freaking boring. Yeah. So they want to be funny. Everybody wants to be funny. So I get paid to help some CEO do his speech and get laughs. So it's a skill that you can use even if you're not going to be a comic. You can use anytime you have to speak or write. A lot of comics now get paid to become writers. Comics are working everything from, there's like, in my new book, I put 130 jobs for comics. In the new comedy Bible, I showed how you can get paid to write greeting cards, like setup, punchline. You can get paid to write scripts, speeches, cartoon voices. Most comics, including the very famous ones, make their most money from corporate gigs.
Такой еще вопрос. Есть ли в Штатах у комиков скептическое отношение к курсам, как у нас в России у многих? Типа, как-нибудь деликатно спроси, что многие у нас и любят эти книги и курсы, а многие не очень.
So, as I was saying, your book is really go-to for beginner comedians. But at the same time, we have some guys who never been good stand-up comedians, never reached any success, or even did stand-up for a long time. And they started to open stand-up classes. So
using my book, I hope.
Yeah. But because of that, that thing, people don't trust stand-up classes here. So I wanted to know if there's some skeptical approach to like people. Do people trust stand-up classes nowadays?
Well, it's weird. So weird. Okay, musicians, right?
Yeah.
They could be smoking pot, whatever. They'll go to a class. They'll go to school to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Artists, they'll learn, right? They'll learn how perspective. They'll learn how to paint. Comics are like, no, screw you. I don't want to learn. I just want to go out there. So comedy, like the person who becomes a comic is the person who goes, screw you. I don't want to learn anything. I'm just going to do it. So that's normal. It's normal. It's normal for a comic to question everything, including a class. Yes, but when I teach, you have to look at my students. Hannah Gatsby from Australia, who was my student.
I'm a big fan.
Yes. She's just won an Emmy, and she's she won an Emmy.
Yeah.
Maz Jobrani, American Iranian. He did he's performing huge events. Seth Rogen, who's pineapples. These people, This is what they knew that was smart. They know before you break the rules, learn them. So here's my thing. I can't teach anybody to be funny. You're funny or you're not funny. But if you are funny, I could show you how to have a career and learn certain fundamentals like, no, this joke is not right for you because this joke isn't going to give you the career you want. This joke isn't going to give you the audience. It's a great joke. Sell it to someone else. Because I could kind of see with people what their track is. Because when Maz Jobrani, who speaks about how hard it is being an Arab American, discrimination. He says, I don't want to be stereotyped. I don't want to talk about that. And I just had to fight with him and say, no, you have to. He says, well, I'll just be pegged. I go, yeah. And he built his entire career on that. And he in my latest book, he put his quote saying, this launched my career. Judy Carter launched my career. So yeah, should you be skeptical of comedy classes? 100%. But should you take them? Yeah. Because first of all, everybody has a lot of sex with each other in those classes, number one. You'll meet somebody who's funny and get laid. Number two, right? You'll have a place to showcase. And number three, you'll learn something. Take what you want and leave the rest.
Топ-3 любимых комика Джуди Картер.
Top 3 favorite comedians of Judy Carter.
Oh, well, I would say my top 3 would be, right now, would be Hannah Gatsby, because she's so honest with who she is. And she makes what people don't get, like beginning comics will start with my dick, a vagina, they'll do jokes like about funny topics. She takes a topic like art history and makes it funny.
Yeah. So yes, about Van Gogh.
That's just amazing. Number 2, I love Eddie Izzard.
Yeah.
He's a genius. He's again a comic. He's a person. He's a transvestite. He's a British comic, and he talks about that there is no God. I mean, he takes on very unpopular topics. I saw him perform for 3 hours. Genius. And my third favorite is Wanda Sykes. Again, Wanda Sykes, she's a Black comic, and she wrote for Chris Rock, and she went out on her own. Very popular here. Her last, I think it was Netflix special or HBO special was, "It's not normal, people. These times are not normal." And oh my God, it's really great when you're watching someone and me, I go, I guess you don't know me, but I go like, oh, that joke could have been written better, or that could, yeah. And with her, I'm laughing until I have asthma.
Okay, sold. I will watch her.
Eddie Izzard,
definitely.
Hannah Gadsby, and Wanda Sykes.
Um,
And I'd love to recommend Kira Sultanovich. She's very popular here, and she's Russian. Oh my God, she's so
Strange, never
funny.
heard the word.
Какой бы совет она дала начинающим русским комикам?
And the last question is, can you give some advice to beginner Russian comedians?
Sorry.
Hang in there and know that if you're not bombing, you're not doing it right. Because when you always get laughs, you're not taking chances. And take a chance and do new material each time, and just know if it doesn't go well and you just bomb, that all the great comics have bombed, and it doesn't mean that you're not talented or you're a failure. Hang in there. Just hang in there and believe in yourself, or don't believe in yourself. But if you don't believe in yourself, do material about how you don't believe in yourself, because that's normal.
Thank you. Спасибо, скажи большое.
Спасибо.
Thank you. Yeah, спасибо. Yeah,
Thank you.
Спасибо,
This was-
спасибо.